Night has fallen over Ouagadougou. The air is dry, and the streets are filled with people gathering in Nation Square. Many hold the flag of Burkina Faso, others wave the green flag of the Sahel Alliance, AES. On a large screen above the crowd, a video of President Ibrahim Traoré plays again and again. His voice is calm and firm. No foreign country has the right to use religion as an excuse to threaten the sovereignty of an African nation. The words are simple but strong. The crowd listens carefully. They know the message is directed at President Donald Trump, who is now in his second term as President of the United States. Earlier that week, the White House confirmed that the U.S. government was considering all options in response to reports of violence against Christian communities in Nigeria. In Washington, news channels repeat the same question. Is the United States preparing a military move in Nigeria? Some analysts think it is only political pressure. Others believe Trump is serious. In Abuja, Nigeria's government rejects the accusation of Christian genocide. Nigerian officials explain that the violence comes from many causes: terrorism, bandit groups, land disputes, and economic tensions. They say there is no policy to harm Christians, but in the U.S., many influential voices say America must protect the innocent. This is the situation when Traoré's message appears online. Only a short clip, but it spreads fast on African news platforms, TikTok, YouTube, and Telegram. It becomes the main topic of conversation from Lagos to Paris. What surprises many people is not the message itself, but whom Traoré speaks to. He does not speak to Nigeria first. He does not speak to the African Union or ECOWAS. He speaks directly to Donald Trump, the sitting American president. For a leader from a small Sahel country to respond so directly to the United States is unusual. It raises questions across Africa and beyond. Is this a real conflict between two presidents, or is this the beginning of a larger political struggle over influence in West Africa, using religion and human rights as the public reason? And most importantly, why would Traoré choose a public message to Trump instead of a private discussion with Nigeria or African institutions? What does this decision reveal about the deeper political game behind the scenes? In the official record, the story begins with a series of reports from international human rights groups and U.S. church organizations. These groups claim that Christian communities in several regions of Nigeria are facing increasing attacks. Their statements reach Washington quickly, where President Donald Trump and his advisors review the situation. The White House releases a short message. The United States is concerned about the safety of Christians in Nigeria and is studying all possible responses. No further details are given, but the phrase "all possible responses" becomes the center of global debate. Many media outlets interpret it as a sign that military involvement is not impossible. Nigeria's government responds firmly. Abuja denies the accusation of any genocide. No further details are given. Abuja denies the accusation of any genocide. Land disputes and economic pressures. They urge the international community not to simplify a complex national problem. As the discussion grows, African regional bodies react cautiously. The African Union, AU, calls for calm and invites both Washington and Abuja to share information before making any strong public statements. ECOWAS, still weakened after the withdrawal of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, avoids taking a clear position, and economic pressures into this atmosphere, still weakened after the withdrawal of Burkina Faso. The message is direct. Their silence creates more uncertainty. Although the Burkinabe government does not release a formal diplomatic note, several African and international media channels treat the clip as a strong political response to the United States. No nation should use religion as a justification for threatening another African state. This is the end of the story. The U.S. expresses concern. Nigeria rejects the accusation. Traoré voit a firm position. But beneath these public statements, many questions remain open, and it is in these unanswered spaces that the real political game begins. Behind the official statements, a more complex network of interests begins to appear. The first group of hidden players is found inside the United States. In the official narrative, several influential conservative and evangelical organizations have strengthened their pressure on the White House. For many years, they have described Nigeria as the most dangerous place in the world for Christians. Their leaders speak directly to Trump's voter base, and their concerns often shape foreign policy discussions. In parallel, national security advisors and members of the defense establishment view Nigeria from a different angle. Nigeria is the largest economy in Africa, a major energy supplier, and a regional power. Some officials believe that greater U.S. involvement could give Washington more influence over security operations, intelligence networks, and even energy routes across West Africa. For them, protecting Christians is not only a humanitarian issue, but also a strategic opportunity. Inside Nigeria, power groups also read the situation carefully, and even energy routes across West Africa, weapons, and training. Others fear that even a small hint of foreign intervention could destabilize the country's delicate balance between the Muslim North and Christian South. Any external military move could intensify political competition inside Abuja and reopen old rivalries among different regional elites. Then comes the Sahel. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, now united under the AES, are building a new political identity. They reject the old influence of France, question U.S. military presence, and open new channels with Russia, Mali, and the Gulf states. For President Traoré, speaking firmly to Washington strengthens this new identity. It presents him not only as a national leader, but as a defender of African sovereignty in a changing region. Foreign actors outside the West also monitor events closely. Some political actors think American pressure might help them secure new security agreements. Turkey looks for economic and military cooperation. Some Gulf countries hope to expand their energy and financial influence. For these players, any tension between Nigeria and the United States creates room for new alliances. In this environment, a simple video clip can become more than a message. It becomes a signal, one that every hidden actor interprets according to their own goals. Another important layer of hidden influence comes from the world of online media. In recent years, African news channels on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Telegram have grown into powerful information networks. Many of these platforms operate independently, without strong editorial control, and they often mix real events with speculation. When Traoré's short message to Trump appeared, these channels amplified it immediately. Some presented it as a direct warning. Others framed it as the beginning of a new confrontation between the Sahel and the United States. This rapid spread created a political atmosphere that traditional governments could not ignore. In Washington, advisors noticed how quickly the videos circulated in Africa. In Abuja, Nigerian officials worried that the clip might encourage groups inside the country to question the government's ability to manage its own affairs. Even within the Sahel, leaders in Mali and Niger saw the message as strengthening the AES narrative of resisting foreign pressure. At the same time, security companies and private military contractors watched the situation closely. Any increase in tension between the U.S. and Nigeria could open new contracts for training, equipment, and security operations. Some of these companies already operate quietly in West Africa, offering services to governments facing internal conflicts. For them, a diplomatic crisis is not a setback, but a business opportunity. Energy companies also have a stake. Nigeria's oil and gas sector has long attracted global interest. If the political scene becomes unstable, foreign firms may try to secure influence by supporting certain political actors or by encouraging international involvement. A narrative focused on protecting communities can easily blend with strategic competition over resources. Finally, Regional political networks add another layer. Some opposition groups in Nigeria see U.S. criticism as a tool to challenge the current government. Meanwhile, political groups in Burkina Faso use Traoré's message to reinforce his leadership image. Even within ECOWAS, certain states quietly observe the rising popularity of the AES and wonder whether they should adjust their own alliances. By the time the message reaches global audiences, it is no longer just a statement from one African leader. It becomes a piece of political currency, shaped and reshaped by governments, interest groups, media networks, and private actors, all trying to turn a few sentences into influence. When we look closely at the situation, the first contradiction appears immediately. The public message from the United States does not fully match the reality on the ground in Nigeria. American statements focus almost entirely on Christian victims, but every major Nigerian security report shows that both Christians and Muslims have suffered from killings, kidnappings, and displacement. The violence is driven by terrorism, criminal groups, land competition, and long-term social pressures, not by a single organized campaign against one religious group. A second contradiction comes from Washington itself. For many years, U.S. officials cooperated closely with Nigerian security forces, even when human rights organizations raised concerns. Why, then, does the language suddenly shift to a tone that suggests the possibility of force? Why now, under Trump's second term? Is the change driven by new facts or by political pressure inside the United States? There is also a contradiction in Abuja's response. Nigeria's leaders deny any wrongdoing, but they also struggle to control several regions of the country. Their message to the world is, there is no genocide, and we are in control. But many Nigerians know the government does not fully control the Middle Belt or the far north. The official statement sounds defensive, as if it is designed more for international audiences than for Nigerian citizens. Then there is President Traoré. The official statement sounds defensive, but Burkina Faso itself is under military rule. Then there is President Traoré. He speaks strongly about African sovereignty and rejects outside interference. Yet his government depends on new foreign partnerships, particularly with Russia. This raises the question, how independent can a country be while building new external alliances at the same time? These contradictions do not cancel each other out. Instead, they reveal how each actor chooses which truth to highlight, depending on what serves their interests at that moment. Another important contradiction lies in the timing. The U.S. message about protecting Christians appears at a moment when West Africa is already unstable. Coups in the Sahel, withdrawal from ECOWAS, rising influence of the AES, and new military partnerships. Why would Washington choose this period, one of the most sensitive in recent African geopolitics, to introduce the idea of possible military action? If the goal is stability, the timing works against that goal. If the goal is something else, the timing makes more sense. We also see a contradiction in how the message of Traoré spreads. The statement that becomes viral online is not released through Burkina Faso's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It does not appear in an official AU document. Instead, it spreads first through social media pages, community channels, and Africa-focused independent platforms. This raises an important question. Did Traoré intend for the message to become a public confrontation, or did online networks amplify a small statement into a diplomatic event? This raises an important question. Did Traoré intend for the message to become a public confrontation? Another detail stands out. Who should be the main subjects of this issue? Analysts in Europe, the U.S., and even some parts of Africa speak more loudly than Nigerian officials. This silence creates a sense of imbalance. If Washington is serious about possible military actions, and if Traoré is serious about defending African sovereignty, then why is the government of Nigeria, the country at the center of the discussion, speaking so little? Finally, there is a contradiction in public emotions. Many African citizens especially in the Sahel region, welcome Traoré's strong tone. They see it as a symbol of dignity, yet the same citizens also know that tension between a superpower and a regional giant like Nigeria could worsen economic hardship, increase insecurity, and weaken regional cooperation. Their pride in Traoré's firmness conflicts with their fear of what comes next. When all these layers are put together, one question becomes unavoidable. If every actor claims to defend peace, protection, or sovereignty, why is the region moving closer to confrontation instead of dialogue? The tension between the United States, Nigeria, and the Sahel does not stay inside diplomatic circles. It immediately begins to reshape the political landscape of West Africa. Nigeria is not just another country in the region. It is the continent's largest population center, one of its strongest armies, and a major economic engine. Any pressure placed on Nigeria sends signals across the entire sub-region. Inside ECOWAS, the situation becomes more complicated. The organization is still weak. After the withdrawals of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, these states form the AES, a new political and military bloc that rejects the old regional order. If Washington moves closer to a confrontational policy toward Nigeria, ECOWAS faces a difficult choice: stand with Abuja and risk deeper divisions, or remain cautious and risk appearing ineffective. Neither option strengthens the organization. Meanwhile, the AES sees an opportunity. For months, its leaders have promoted themselves as defenders of African sovereignty, especially against Western interference. Traoré's message to Trump fits perfectly into this strategy. Within AES capitals, officials claim the event proves that the Sahel must control its own destiny and resist all foreign pressure, whether from Europe or the United States. The more Washington applies pressure on Nigeria, the more AES gains attention as an alternative voice in African politics. Major global powers also adjust their positions. Russia, already active in the Sahel, sees a chance to expand influence by offering political support and military cooperation. China remains more cautious but watches closely, knowing that instability in Nigeria could affect its economic projects across Africa. Turkey and the UAE, both seeking greater roles on the continent, consider whether rising U.S. Nigeria tensions could open doors for new partnerships and investments. Economic impacts begin to surface as well. Investors grow nervous about Nigeria's stability. Cross-border trade routes between Nigeria and Niger face increased checks, slowing the movement of goods. Rising uncertainty affects fuel prices, food imports, and transportation costs across West Africa. Even countries not directly involved, such as Ghana, Togo, and Benin, start preparing for possible economic aftershocks if relations between Washington and Abuja worsen. In this environment, Traoré's message becomes more than a political statement. It becomes part of a wider contest over who will shape the future of West Africa. Traditional Western partners are rising AES bloc, or a mix of new global actors waiting to fill any power vacuum. As the political tension grows, a deeper regional shift begins to appear. If the United States continues to pressure Nigeria, West Africa may enter a new period of strategic competition. Both Washington and the AES will try to shape the narrative of who represents the future of the region. For the United States, Nigeria is a key partner. It is the strongest English-speaking democracy in Africa and a major economic hub. Losing influence there would significantly weaken America's standing on the continent. For this reason, even the suggestion of military consideration places Washington in a difficult position. If the U.S. acts too aggressively, it may push Nigeria toward alternative partners. If it acts too softly, critics in the U.S. may say the administration failed to protect vulnerable communities. For the AES, this moment is a chance to redefine regional leadership. Until recently, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger were seen as unstable states, but through coordinated policies and a shared message of sovereignty, they are building a new image. Traoré's message to Trump strengthens this identity. It presents the AES as a bloc capable of speaking boldly to world powers. In many Sahel communities, this message brings a sense of pride, especially after years of frustration with foreign military presence and slow development. Nigeria, however, occupies a unique position. It cannot align fully with the West or with the AES. Its economy depends on broad partnerships. Its internal divisions make foreign alignment complicated. Any move by Nigeria will therefore influence the entire regional balance. If Nigeria chooses cooperation with the U.S., ECOWAS may recover some unity. If Nigeria distances itself from Washington, the AES gains more momentum. Meanwhile, global actors continue to adjust. Russia sees a chance to position itself as a defender of African sovereignty. China avoids public confrontation, but could expand economic influence quietly. Gulf states may step in to offer funding and mediation. Each of these actors benefits from uncertainty. None of them want open conflict, but each of them prefers a weakened Western presence. As these dynamics evolve, the impact reaches everyday people. Cross-border migration becomes riskier, food prices rise in inland markets, transport companies adjust routes, and traders worry that a diplomatic crisis could quickly turn into a security or economic crisis. In many West African households, the question shifts from who is right to how will this affect our lives. In the middle of this complex game, Traoré's message stands as a symbol, clear, direct, and designed to show that West Africa will not wait silently while global powers argue over its future. With tensions rising and political signals crossing continents, West Africa stands at a turning point. What happens next depends on choices made not only in Washington and Abuja, but also in Ouagadougou, Abuja, Niamey, Moscow, and even the Gulf capitals. From this moment, several possible futures can be seen. Scenario 1: escalation and division. In the first scenario, the United States continues to increase pressure on Nigeria. Public speeches focus on the need to protect Christian communities, and private discussions inside the Pentagon explore limited military actions or rapid response operations. Even if no actual intervention occurs, the strong U.S. posture deepens suspicion. Across Africa, Nigeria responds defensively, speaking less to Washington and more to global partners who offer respect for its sovereignty. The AES uses the moment to strengthen its political identity and to present itself as a shield against foreign interference. ECOWAS becomes more divided, regional trade slows, and cross-border cooperation weakens further. In this path, the region becomes more polarized, and the gap between U.S. aligned governments and sovereignty-focused states grows wider. Scenario 2: quiet negotiation and strategic compromise. In the second scenario, American pressure pushes Nigeria into a negotiation behind closed doors. Both sides reach a compromise. Nigeria may accept some security adjustments, share more data with U.S. agencies, share more data with U. In return, Washington softens its tone and avoids any talk of military action. Traoré's message continues to circulate, but it becomes part of the political background. Rather than a central dispute, Nigeria maintains relations with both the U.S. and its African neighbors. ECOWAS remains fragile, but avoids collapse. The AES keeps growing in influence, but does not gain enough momentum to challenge the entire regional order. In this scenario, the crisis ends quietly, without major changes, but the underlying tensions remain and could resurface in the future. Scenario 3: public awareness and regional maturity. In the third scenario, African citizens play a more important role. As the story spreads, people in Nigeria, Burkina Faso, Niger, Ghana, Senegal, and beyond begin to question the motivations of all sides, they recognize that foreign powers may use the language of protection, while local leaders may use the language of sovereignty, but both can hide political goals. Independent journalists, civil society groups, and educators push for clearer information. Governments face greater pressure to explain decisions. In this scenario, the region becomes more mature politically. Neither Washington nor the AES can use simple narratives without being challenged. The tension reduces because public understanding becomes stronger. Final judgment. From the perspective of African sovereignty and the long-term dignity of the people, the most important point is clear. Africa must remain in control of its own decisions, whether the pressure comes from the United States, Europe, Russia, or even from African military governments themselves. President Traoré's message to Trump has symbolic power. It reflects a growing desire across the continent to speak clearly and without fear. But symbolism alone is not enough. Africa needs stable institutions, independent media, transparent leadership, and regional cooperation that does not depend on outside influence. The final question for the people of West Africa is not whether Trump or Traoré is right. The question is, will Africans allow external narratives, whether about religion or security, to shape their future more than their own voices and choices? If this analysis helps open that conversation, then it should be shared, discussed, and questioned, not blindly accepted. Real sovereignty begins with informed citizens, not with speeches from presidents.